Hello! We are going over the 324 biblical prophecies that prove Jesus is the Messiah. You are watching this on the Halachgoy channel of YouTube. I'm a Halachgoy, and you can be one too. 324 biblical prophecies that prove Jesus is the Messiah. Prophecy number 28. The leper cleansed. Sign to priesthood. We find this prophecy in the book of Leviticus, chapter 14, verse 11. The priest who pronounces him clean shall present both the one to be cleansed and his offerings before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. We find the fulfillment of this prophecy in Luke chapter 5, verses 12 to 14. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy. When he saw Jesus, he fell with his feet to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. Then Jesus ordered him, "Don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them." Acts chapter 6, verse 7. So the word of the Lord spread. The number of disciples in Jerusalem increased rapidly, and a large number of priests became obedient to the faith. Looking at this, in the book of Leviticus, it makes a clear statement concerning the cleansing of leprosy. Now, leprosy is not what we normally think in the 21st century as leprosy. Today, there's skin diseases that are referred to as leprosy. What we find in the Bible is a spiritual condition that physically manifests itself. It occurred at certain times in history when it was able to occur, when there was a big gap between the spiritual state of the person and something the person was doing in their physical realm, some kind of sin that was much, much lower than what the person should be doing, and the conflict between those two places caused a kind of a lesion in the spirit realm or whatever. It caused the leprosy to fall on the person. This could only happen to people, this occurrence could only happen to people that were very high to begin with. We think of Miriam, who received leprosy. Moses received leprosy. Leprosy occurred to people with very high spiritual states that did something that was, because of they were so high up, what they did caused the conflict that caused the leprosy. We wouldn't find it today because people today are simply not capable of reaching the height of, let's say, Moses. When this would occur, people were isolated for a period. It was sort of a time for reflection, for doing their personal devotionals or whatever. It was a time to get away, get themselves recentered with God. The leprosy would leave. Then they would come back to the temple. The priest would pronounce them clean and present the offerings before the Lord. This person came to Jesus, knew that Jesus could help him center himself on God, begged him to help him with the leprosy that was occurring with him, this imbalance in his life, said, "Please help me with this." Jesus helped him with it. the leprosy left him. But it needs to be understood that the cleansing does not occur when the leprosy leaves. The cleansing occurs when the person goes to the temple, presents his sacrifices at the temple. The priest takes the sacrifices and presents them to God. Then the person is correctly clean. I mean, there's different levels of cleansing. Obviously, the priest pronounces them clean and then gives the offering. But the priest pronounces them as clean, and then God also accepts that with the offering. And then the person, after the offering, then the person can live a normal life after that, hopefully a better life after that. Jesus tells the person, go to the temple and present the offerings. He makes it very clear to the person, you are to give these offerings as a testimony. What testimony was he giving? If the man is cleansed, now he has to go to the priest. The priest has to accept the offerings. The offerings are being given to the priest as a testimony. What is Jesus trying to communicate with these priests? If I read it the way it's written, it's telling me that the offerings are the testimony. If Jesus is giving the person the offering and telling the person to go give the offering to the priest, Jesus is affirming the necessity of doing things the way that Moses said to do them. Jesus is not setting up anything new. There's nothing new that's happening in this passage in the book of Luke. What Jesus is doing is he's helping a person out, and then he's very strongly instructing the person to do things the way Moses told you to do it. Do the temple sacrifice the way Moses told you to do it. I'm not here to do anything new. I'm not here to set up a new system for sacrifice. I'm here to affirm the sacrificial system in the temple according to the Mosaic covenant. And that's what Jesus' testimony is to the priests. If priests came to the early Christian church, according to the book of Acts, if that was any way related to that, the scripture itself does not relate these verses between Luke and Acts. Of course, it's the same author. You think that if there was a connection, he would have said there was a connection. The priest became obedient to the faith. It's not clear if those priests were in any way related to the priests that helped this leper that received the testimony of Jesus. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I'm focusing on the words that Jesus spoke, and the words that he spoke are good. Thank you very much. The next prophecy we'll be looking at prefigures Christ's one-for-all death. Leviticus chapter 16, verses 15 to 17. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.